This is the morning of the 10th of March, 2026. This is really going to piss off a lot of people, especially if you or anyone that you know died or is ill because of cancer. Article on the Daily Mail, written by Stacy Liberatore, U.S. Science and Technology editor, published on the 9th of March. Title: CIA faces furious backlash after hidden document with potential cure for cancer is declassified after 60 years. CIA accused of secret bioweapon experiments linked to major outbreak in its own people. This shouldn't surprise anyone. A newly surfaced CIA document suggests U.S. intelligence once reviewed research that hinted at a possible cancer treatment more than 60 years ago. The document, produced in February 1951 and declassified in 2014, summarizes a Soviet scientific paper that examines striking similarities between parasitic worms and cancerous tumors. The report describes how researchers believed both organisms thrived under nearly identical metabolic conditions and accumulated large reserves of glycogen, a form of stored energy. The research also highlighted experiments showing that certain chemical compounds were capable of targeting both parasitic infections and malignant tumors. One drug, MARC-D, was reportedly effective against Piaza parasites, as well as cancerous growth, hinting that treatment developed for parasites might also attack tumors. Other compounds are found to interfere with nucleic acid production, a process essential for the uncontrolled growth of cancer cells. Experiments on mice even showed that tumors' tissues reacted differently to certain chemicals than normal tissues, further reinforcing the perceived biochemical overlap between parasites and cancers. Although the document was declassified more than a decade ago, it has recently resurfaced online, fueling outrage among some Americans as say it raises troubling questions about why Cold War research hinting at possible cancer treatment sat in intelligence archives for decades. I told you it's going to piss people off, especially if you or anyone that you know died from cancer or is suffering from cancer. The Americans knew. They read it, declassified it confidential, and locked it in a vault for 60 years. One person shared on X, including the CIA document in the post. Another X-user said the CIA knew from 1951 that cancer was parasites. However, the document itself does not say cancer is caused by parasites, only that a Soviet study noted biochemical similarities between tumors and parasitic worms and observed that some compounds affected both in experiments. Daily Mail has contracted the CIA for comment. Yeah, good luck with that. The CIA document was based on a 1950 article published in the Soviet scientific journal Pravda by Professor V.V. Apolotov, a researcher studying the biochemical behavior of endoparasites, organisms that live inside the body of a host. American intelligence analysts circulated the paper because it was considered potentially relevant to biomedical and national defense research during the early years of the Cold War. According to the Soviet research summarizes the report, one of the most striking similarities between parasitic worms and cancer cells was their metabolism. Parasitic worms that inhabit the human intestine rely heavily on anaerobic metabolism, meaning they generate energy without requiring large amounts of oxygen. Tumor cells appear to behave in a comparable way, often relying on altered metabolic pathways that allow them to survive in oxygen-poor environments inside the body. Both parasites and tumors were also observed to accumulate large stores of gliadin, a molecule used by cells as an energy reserve. This buildup suggests that both types of tissue might operate under unusual metabolic conditions compared to healthy cells. Researchers classified these tissues as aforementioned metabolic type, a term used by German scientist T.H. Brand, meaning they can produce energy even when oxygen is low and can survive in oxygen-free environments. This dual metabolic ability may help tumors survive in densely packed tissues where the blood supply is limited. The Soviet scientists also pointed to experimental drugs that appeared to affect parasites and tumors in similar ways. One example cited in the same document was Miracle D, a compound synthesized in 1938 by German chemist H. Maus. The drug had already shown effectiveness against Bilharzia, a parasitic disease caused by blood flukes. According to the Soviet research, it also demonstrated against malignant tumors. Another compound discussed in the report was Galosco, a guanine-like molecule that interferes with the production of nucleic acids, the chemical building blocks of DNA and RNA. Do you have any idea how far advanced this could have been if it wasn't hidden in the drawers for 60 years? I mean, come on. In a laboratory test, a substance suppressed nucleic acids synthesized in certain microorganisms, as well as in cancer tumors grown in mice. Because cancer cells require rapid DNA replication to divide uncontrollably, blocking this process can now slow tumor growth. The research also examined how tumors and parasites react to the chemical known as edobrin, which exists in two mirror image forms known as enantiomers. In most animals studied, the left rotating version of the compound proved more toxic, but tumor tissues from mice, certain mollusks, which left spiraling shells, and parasitic worms inside frogs, were more sensitive to the right rotating form. This unusual response suggests that tumor cells or parasites may possess chemical inverted receptors, meaning their molecular structure interacts with drugs differently than normal tissues do. Based on these findings, the Soviet researchers proposed several biological features that tumors and parasites might share. This included the presence of unique antigens, unusual purine metabolism involved in nucleic and production, and altered enzyme systems with cell protoplasm. The scientists theorized that malignancy might arise from chemical changes within the cell's internal environment, particularly changes affecting enzymes and the proteins that carry them. The CIA document concluded by noting that ongoing Soviet research into tumor proteins and cancer cell chemistry was considered especially important at the time. I mean, this is just mind-blowing. Like I said, could you imagine, God forbid, if you have cancer or someone that you love had cancer and died? They could have found a cure over the last 60 years. Again, this is your CIA, the Criminal Investigation Organization. You need to pass this one along to your like-minded friends. You need to repost this. And thanks for listening. Who does for you what I do? Nobody. You know why? No one's that fucking stupid to do what I do.